Hey everybody, completing the square. Completing the square usually gets a bad rap because people get scared of what they need to do with this. All it is a simple process that's going to take us from standard form of an equation, which is ax squared plus bx plus c, to the vertex form of a quadratic equation, a times x minus h plus k, where the vertex is the point hk. And then a will tell us what a normally tells us, if it opens up or down, if it's narrower or wider than the original parent graph. So here's your process. We'll start when a is equal to 1. So if a is equal to 1, let's take the equation x squared plus 6x minus 7. Now, to complete the square, I'll put f of x there as well. What I've been telling all the students is you want to have zero sum. You want to have a zero sum, meaning you don't want to add or subtract anything. From the function itself. So if you add a 2, you have to subtract a 2 because 2 plus 2 is 0. That's your zero sum. And we're going to have to do something like that. So part of the process is making sure that we're not adding any values to it or taking any values away. When a equals 1, this is a fairly straightforward process. What we're going to do is I'm going to have you write f of x is equal to, take the first two terms, x squared plus 6x, and then I want you to write a nice big box right there. Then take 7, and since we're going to add a box, I'm going to subtract the box. So this is going to take care of the zero sum idea. If I'm adding something and then I subtract the same thing, I'm not really adding anything at all. So now, what I want to do is I want to focus on the coefficient of x. So I want to focus on what I say b is equal to 6. Then I want you to take b divided by 2. And b divided by 2 is 6 divided by 2, which is 3. And then what I want you to do is go 3 squared. I want you to take 3 squared. That's going to complete the square. And then 3 squared is going to go up there, and 3 squared is going to go up there. Now from this, we're going to take f of x is going to be equal to a binomial squared, one of the special binomials. And we're going to take an x from the x squared, and then since it's going to be, there's a plus and there's a plus, I'm going to take plus 3. And the first part, the x squared plus 3x plus 9, is actually x plus 3 quantity squared. I have negative 7, and now I have minus 9. So my f of x is really x plus 3 squared minus 16. My vertex is going to be at negative 3, negative 16 at this point. So we're able to find our vertex just by doing this process. And when a equals 1, this process works 100% of the time. Now, the reason why this works is when we deal with x plus 3 quantity squared, you have x plus 3 times x plus 3. You get x squared plus 3x plus 3x plus 9. And from here, you get x squared plus 2 3x's from this diagonal right there, plus 2 3x's plus 9, which is x squared plus 6x plus 9. Now, since I already have the 6x, but I don't know what that number is, since I need 2 of them to build this, if I took 6 and divided it by 2, like I did, I got the 3, and that tells me exactly what's being squared. So, because here, that 9 is 3 squared. So that's really where it comes from. And when a equals 1, this is the steps we're going to take. Draw it out, add a box, subtract a box, take b divided by 2 because the special product means you're going to get 2 of the middle parts. And I'm looking for this number right here. That number is going to be the number that's going to be squared inside the box. And make sure you have the squared inside the box because you're completing that square. And now we've completed it here. X plus 3 quantity squared minus 7x minus 9. Now, when x is not equal to 1, let's say f of x is equal to 2x plus, let's say, 16x minus 3. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on these first two, because those are the only two things that really matter when completing the square. The negative 3 is important, but it's not all that important. What I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out. So factor a greatest common factor number from the x squared and the x terms. So I look at 2 and I look at 16 and I can see that 2 is going to divide into 2, 2 is going to divide into 16. So what I'm going to get is 2 times now x squared plus 8x. And now to complete the square I need that box again, because I still want to complete the square. Now I have a negative 3. Now the issue that comes into play here is this 2. If I add the x and I do the distributive, I'm really adding 2 times that x, or 2 times that box. So what I need to do is subtract 2 times that box. So whatever my greatest common factor is, I need to have that number right here. So here is my greatest common factor as well. And then now the process is exactly the same. This is the only trick. This is the trick. The trick, not the trig. The trick, and it's only the only stumbling block that you're going to run into. So now I say, all right, my b is going to be this guy right here, is going to be 8. So my b over 2 is 4. So I'm going to take 4 squared, which I know is 16. So in here, I want to put 4 squared. In here, I can put 16. Just because I don't have to actually do 4 squared again. So f of x, in this case now, whoops, sorry for the double parentheses here. I'm going to get 2 times the quantity of x plus 4 quantity squared, because the 4 is what is actually using to complete the square, because it's really x squared plus 8x plus 16. So 4 times 4 is 16. It's all good to go. And if I had 16 in there, times 2 is a 32. And you'll see when I get negative 3 from this part right there, then negative 2 times 16, I'm going to get a negative 32, which will counteract the 16 that I get from 4 squared times 2, which is a positive 32. So I still get that zero-sum game, because from here I have the plus 32, from here I have the minus 32. So I go one step further to simplify. 2 times x plus 4 squared minus 35. And from here I could tell my vertex is negative 4 comma negative 35. My a is equal to 2, which is greater than 0, which means I know I'm going to open up. And since both of my values are negative, I'm going to be over here, and I'm going to be way down here, and I know it's going to open up like this. I know I'm going to get, from here I also know I get 2 roots. or zeros, or x-intercepts. I know that's still going to be the case. So the only trick that you need that's different is you're going to factor out a greatest common factor, and more often than not, it's going to be whatever that number that A is going to be. The A is going to come out, so you're left with a number 1 here. And then you kind of move on from there. You complete the square. You're good to go, and you could get your information from there. Some suggestions. Know the process. It's an easy process. The hardest thing you got to do is divide by 2, square something, then you got some adding to do. You just got to know what you got to square, what you got to do from there. Another thing, don't make it harder than it is. Don't think that this is something that's mysterious and crazy and spooky, because it's not. It is actually a pretty easy concept. So go ahead and practice the homework that we have, and if you have any questions, let me know.